So these are the three key goals that we have with respect to energy. So reducing, or not reducing, but ensuring that we're operating all of our city buildings on 100% renewable electricity by 2025, as well as decreasing greenhouse gas emissions by 25%. So the goal, when we say 2021, that's our fiscal year, so that gives us until the end of June of 2021. But we're comparing ourselves to a baseline in 2009. There was a greenhouse gas emissions and energy footprint report that was done in 2009 to establish that as our baseline. And then the last is really ensuring that all this work that we're doing with respect to energy and greenhouse gas emissions, Gesundheit, is being adequately included with affordable housing and a lot of the work that's happening with affordable housing right now. So specifically, where are we with respect to renewable energy? So as of July of 2017, 26% of our city buildings were being powered with renewable electricity. And if you heard about, I do have a slide, but we have a biodigester that's going to be coming online at our water resource recovery facility. When that's fully operational in 2019, we expect that it will be generating almost all of the electricity needed for our water resource recovery facility, which is wastewater. But that will move us closer to 40 to 50% of the city's total electricity will be being provided by renewable. And you can see over the years it's fluctuated a little. I've blown up the axis there to show the fluctuations a little bit, but it's really just hovered around 26%. And this pie chart shows where does that 26% come from. So by and large, the greatest majority is we have a contract with consumers under their Green Generation program where we buy outright renewable energy and say that we want to have that as a part of our portfolio. So that's, it makes up 17.5%. And then we also have, it's a little off the side of the screen, sorry about that. But the second largest is then consumers under law. They have to provide as a part of their fuel mix 10% under the renewable portfolio standard. So taking that into account gets us another little over 8%. And then we actually have a solar array at our Oak Industrial facility that generates a very small amount, but we're excited. We do have a solar array on one of our city-owned facilities, so we are proud of that. Just to put into perspective, for 1 year, all city operations, we consume about 95 million kilowatt hours across our entire footprint. And that's fairly evenly broken down into 4 different areas. The 3 largest consumers that account for about 25% of that are the water resource recovery facility, our Lake Michigan filtration plant. So we pump all of the potable water that we use in the city from Lake Michigan, and that takes an enormous amount of energy to pump that from out on the lake shore to get it to the city. And then our street lights, signs, and signals make up, and then kind of everything else. Parking garages, fire departments, police stations, city buildings, this building fall into that last quarter in terms of our own energy footprint. So this is pretty exciting. Are there very many people that heard about the biodigester project? Okay, well good. So if you want, these are a couple live links. You can go. The one shows some really nice videos of the groundbreaking. But here, these 3 towers that you see here are going to be the first phase of the biodigester. And so it really is going to be taking very kind of oxygen-rich waste coming from food processors and agribusinesses. So Founders was a huge partner, right? They're generating enormous, phenomenal quality beer here in our great city, while they produce a very distinct type of wastewater that's high in certain elements that are hard for a wastewater treatment plant to treat in a normal process. But even others in our community that are generating similar waste, the Coke plant that's over there off of Butterworth as well has some similar waste that they're generating. And so what happens is there were some new pipelines that were built and divert all of that to this new system of biodigestion where that can be broken down in a very environmentally friendly process, and it will generate electricity that can be burned at the wastewater treatment plant that will then generate all of the electricity that will be consumed right there by our own facility and operation. It was a $38 million project, but had we not gone this way and invested in biodigestion, and instead if we had to retrofit our current wastewater treatment plant, it probably would have cost closer to about $120 million. So it was a very financially smart investment to make, and it aligned nicely with our sustainability plan, as well as our goals to increase the amount of renewable energy that we are generating. The construction manager is Crispin Company that we're working with, and groundbreaking should take place in 2019. Okay, and so then solar, as I mentioned, we do have a small solar array. 429 panels. They were installed in 2012. You can see some of the information about the project that we did at our Oak Industrial Facility, which is one of our environmental service department and water departments, kind of office style facilities. But we are exploring solar. Oh, and this bottom graph. So that is a photo of our actual array. And the bottom graph shows the amount of solar energy being generated across 2017. So you can see December it dips off, but a lot of people think, oh, nothing is probably being generated in the middle of winter. But there still is electricity that's being generated, albeit at a smaller rate than in the middle of the summer. We do have an interest in exploring solar, and that's something I'm working on right now as well. And so we do have our Butterworth landfill, where there were some efforts made to implement a solar project there that unfortunately didn't come to fruition. So that's still on our docket of looking at that at the landfill, our Lake Michigan filtration plant, but we're also going to be exploring with the rapid increase in technology around solar panels, even perhaps smaller building rooftops might be a good site for solar now, so we're going to be evaluating that. As well as our parking lots and our parking garages. So some pretty exciting things happening over at MSU, if you're familiar with the solar panels that they've put as kind of carports over their parking lots. So we're kind of watching all of that and starting to evaluate what we may be able to do here in Grand Rapids. Okay, so these are kind of the three key programs that I wanted to spend a little bit of time because they really impact the building sector in the city of Grand Rapids as a whole. And so the three programs are PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, our Grand Rapids 2030 District, and our Zero Cities Project. So to start, how many people have heard about PACE? Okay, not too many. Well, that's good. I'll go into a little bit of detail. But it's a program that was created by state law, and that was created in 2010. And our Grand Rapids City Commission adopted it in August of this past year. So it really just got launched and started here in the city of Grand Rapids. It's seen as an economic development incentive in the sense that it provides financing for private building owners interested in implementing energy efficiency or renewable energy on your own property. It allows, and it uses a special tax assessment to do that, to make the cash flow work for the clean energy projects. But it's not funded at all by the city, and it does not come from city taxpayer money whatsoever. It truly is really just an economic development incentive that the city passed to allow building owners to capitalize on with respect to funders that are interested in these type of properties. It does apply, as I mentioned, to any energy efficiency or renewable energy projects. So essentially anything that will reduce your energy or your water bills at your property can apply for PACE financing. The image over here on the right is a little hard to see, but I think it really explains what's happening. So you have your current energy bill on the top. That's what you're paying, whatever that might be. And you're paying all of that money to your utility providers. The way that PACE works is on the bottom graph, you implement this energy efficiency reduction, or maybe you put solar panels on so you don't need to be buying as much electricity from consumers. So your energy bill is going to be reduced. What's left in terms of the difference between what you were paying before is enough to pay back your PACE loan, as well as to provide energy savings to you, to the building owner, to the tenants, however that is structured. So that's the way that the financing works in terms of looking at the program. And the lender does become the beneficiary of a tax lien. So I have a little bit more information, and so that I don't forget, I do have 4 handouts over there on the table that if you're interested in, provides a little bit more, some FAQs, kind of a general overview of the PACE program. Okay, so eligibility. Who gets to take advantage of this awesome program that's being offered? So it's available to any commercial, industrial, multifamily, or nonprofit building. So really the only building owners that this doesn't work for are single family residential. City government can't take advantage of it either, but those are the only two. So everyone else can take advantage of this. And Leaning Green, Michigan is our current PACE administrator, and they really helped put together some of this information, so I do want to acknowledge their help with this. But the key kind of eligibility requirements that they've laid out to indicate when does PACE make sense for a project is the property should have a value of greater than $800,000, and you should be paying over $60,000 a year in utility bills. This information is on the documents that I provided as well. And if you have existing debt on the property, it needs to be less than about 80% of the property's value. And then lastly, the property owner has to be current on all tax obligations. So those are kind of the general guidelines around what type of property can apply and utilize PACE. And some of the just requirements I'm going to go through very high level. There is a nice document that provides a little bit more detail, but in terms of the process, the very first one is that you would complete a a PACE inquiry form. It's very high level. What building is it? Who owns it? How many square feet are it? And then you can say, yes, we're looking at doing energy efficiency or water efficiency, maybe HVAC improvements, maybe LED lights. Maybe you are interested in solar. It's very high level. You do not indicate the value of the property, any confidential information, any proprietary information. It's very high level. That form actually comes to me. I'm the main person at the city who manages our PACE program. And so I'm going to log that to keep track of it, and then essentially I will put you in contact with our PACE administrator, which right now is Leaning Green, Michigan, where you can start the process of kind of marching through these other steps. So one of the first one is you do kind of a higher level energy analysis of the efficiency project that you're looking at doing, or the renewable project with a PACE approved contractor, to really say, okay, does this make sense? Is it going to achieve the type of savings that warrant this type of financial investment from a lender? Once that comes back, the second part is really to look at underwriting by an approved PACE lender. So those are private lending institutions that exist that have been involved with PACE. PACE is all over the country, and so there are some larger lending institutions that are involved. You have to do an energy audit, which is akin to an ASHRAE level 2. You get your lender consent, and then you finalize documents that are going to include a PACE application as well as the actual special assessment agreement, which is something that gets approved by the city and is filed with the city to have on record. So city approval is required, and then you go forward and you complete your project. You have to monitor performance, and then you start repaying your loan. So the financing terms, the way that PACE is set up is that it actually provides 100% financing upfront for your project. It's a 10 to 25 year term loan agreement with fixed interest rates. The contractor has to guarantee energy savings will exceed the PACE payments over the life of the project for any project that's greater than $250,000, which is the bulk majority of most projects that are utilizing PACE. And it does require mortgagee consent. So some of the other benefits that are listed here, the PACE runs with the land. So if you sell the property, it's sold with the property. It can be passed through to the tenants if you want to pass it through to the tenants. It cannot be used for anything else. So the loan is specifically and can only be used for energy efficiency, water efficiency, or renewable energy projects. In accounting, you treat this as an operating expense, which is a nice advantage to having it as a capital expense that's going through kind of your traditional CapEx procedures in different institutions. So in Michigan, there are 34 local governments that have passed PACE. It can be passed at the county level or the city level. It's mostly been county level, but here the city of Grand Rapids took the lead and we passed it. It is also available in, I should know this, Wyoming, and it's either Wyoming or Kentwood, so I can confirm that if anybody is interested to know. Actually, it should be on our list here. Wyoming, yes, I think is the only other local city in Kent County that is currently offering it. And then nationally, some statistics that Leaning Green, Michigan provided, but you can see from this chart the number of projects has really steadily increased over the last couple of years as it's been offered in more states, more jurisdictions, and more people are becoming familiar with it and excited about the opportunities to have the capital available to implement these type of energy projects. So currently just a little shy of $500 million in PACE projects are happening in the United States, with many other kind of in the waiting right now going through that process that I illustrated. Any questions on PACE? Do you think that sounds like something that some of the clients you work with might be interested in? Maybe? Okay. All right. Well, we hope, I mean, as a city, really the key goal and one of the reasons why the mayor and the commission decided to pass it is because we want to make it easier for predominantly smaller and medium-sized businesses interested in implementing energy efficiency when they may not have capital readily available up front for some of these projects that can cost, you know, upwards of millions of dollars. And a number of the PACE projects now that are being implemented are actually more in kind of the $2, $3, $5 million range. They don't have to be, but it seems that those are some of the projects that are really taking advantage of PACE at this time. So the Grand Rapids 2030 district, are very many people familiar with this program at all? All right, well, it's really a public-private partnership where we're looking to create high-performing buildings throughout the city. And it's supposed to help increase marketability and profitability for the property owners. And it's looking specifically, you know, at your environmental impact for the purpose of the district and the greater good of the district as a whole. So U.S. Green Building Council West Michigan is the administrator for the program and is our key partner. There is a district advisory council that I sit on that has representatives from different businesses and institutions throughout the community. So the website's here. There are currently 18 districts. We were the 11th to sign on and have a district established, and that was established at the very end of 2015. So what exactly is it? It's a voluntary program that's asking building owners to make commitments to drastic energy, water, and transportation emission reductions, predominantly focused on energy and water. If you don't have a fleet and you're not operating the rapid, transportation often doesn't apply to you in the building segment. But asking to make those steep emission reductions by the year 2030, hence the District 2030 title that comes with it. So the baseline that's established for any building, regardless of your industry and whether you've been implementing projects or tracking, is the CBEX 2003 baseline score for different building types. And that's what's established as the baseline across all of the districts that are participating. And the goal is, as a city for us, that we want building owners and operators to be participating because we really want to say, as a community, we have achieved X percentage reduction in energy. And right now that's very hard if we don't have a mechanism in place to kind of help coalesce all of that data together as a community and with respect to all of the great projects that some of your different clients and partners might be implementing. So one of the reasons why I think this program hasn't received as much attention historically as we hope that it will moving forward this year is because initially there was a district, and it pretty much was the urban core, just the downtown. Because I think it's on the next slide, of all property types are eligible to participate except for single-family homes. So there was an initial focus on the urban core, knowing that there really aren't too many single-family homes in that area. But in December, the District Advisory Committee voted and we approved to move to expand the boundary of our district to be inclusive of the entire city of Grand Rapids. And of the 18 cities participating in the 2030 district, I think Grand Rapids is the first to make that decision. And a lot of them are very excited and eager to see how that works for us because they think that that's an interesting model that they may want to mimic in their communities as well. So really, as I said, it's voluntary, but when you sign up, the ask is that the property owner, operator, management company share or input your utility data into Energy Star Portfolio Manager and then share that with the 2030 district. Your information is always kept confidential. It is not shared with anyone. All we look at it is on an aggregate level in terms of trying to better understand as a community how much energy are our buildings consuming, and ideally, how much has that been reduced in comparison to our 2003 baseline. So currently, we have over 32 property owners that are participating in 50 buildings that are currently enrolled. Now again, this was all when it was confined to the urban core, so we're really hoping that these numbers are going to start to steadily increase this year as we get the word out. Over 10 million square feet. And these are some of the examples of some of the building owners that participate. If you go to the 2030 district website, you can see a listing of some of the different building owners and operators that are participating. Some of the other cities, Detroit did just come on with a 2030 district, but Cleveland has one, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and then kind of the other big players like Denver and Seattle and San Francisco, in those areas. The actual stated goals are pretty very stretched goals. So it's both for existing buildings and for new buildings can participate, and we want both to be participating. The goal by 2030 is that existing buildings reduce energy consumption by 50%. That's an extremely lofty goal, and we understand that. For new buildings, it's actually set at a 90% reduction, or getting as near close to net zero as possible. But really, for purposes of our program, we're just asking people to say, look, we're committed to energy efficiency and to water efficiency, and we want to participate and help the city and as a community understand energy conservation. There's no penalty or anything around the goals. They're just kind of the elaborate stretch goals that have been developed by the program. So we're really working just to encourage people to say, can you get some of your property owners, some of your clients, those that you know in this arena, to help advocate for participation in the 2030 district. Any questions on this project? Okay, and then the last one I have is our Zero Cities project. I only have one slide on this. This was a recent project program that got announced. There's a link at the bottom for a Grand Rapids Business Journal article that just came out in mid-December about our participation. So it's a 3-year grant funded project that is helping develop a policy roadmap toward a zero net carbon building sector by 2050. So zero net carbon, what does that mean? I mean, first that means, right, implement as much energy efficiency as you possibly can. And then for any of the building's remaining energy needs, you offset that with either on-site renewable generation or procurement of renewable generation through PPAs and other avenues. So that essentially you get to where your building's energy consumption has been minimized by the generation of renewable energy. There are 12 U.S. cities that were selected to participate in this. It's a very cutting edge program where they're looking and hoping to evaluate how they can, the nonprofit organizations that are managing this program, the goal really is how can we implement policy programs within a city to incentivize the private building industry to really incorporate drastic energy reductions. This could be things like economic incentives, tax abatements, maybe other permitting policies that can be put in place that are advantageous for building owners. So I'm still pretty new to the city and I'm learning a lot with this, but Lou, that I think many of you know, Canfield, here with the Development Center, is one of our key partners, and he participates with me on the Zero Cities project. But the goal is to establish these types of policies and best practices that cities can really have in place as a carrot so that building owners are trying to achieve these drastic energy reductions, and then taking these models and sharing it with lots of other cities. So again, another example of where the city of Grand Rapids is excited to be on the leading edge of something. Sometimes I think, gosh, this just seems like sometimes such an out there goal, because really it's so that every building type, this is the one program that is inclusive of single family homes. So even looking at policies around homeowners and individuals who are homeowners, in terms of how do you get those homeowners to implement energy efficiency and try to get to zero net carbon. I mean, this is a very, very lofty goal, but one that we're excited to be participating in and being on the cutting edge, and are really looking to you as an industry to participate with us and help us understand what are the best policies to put in place. Because it doesn't make sense to stand over here in city government and say, well, this is what we think, and we're gonna throw this out there, and then the community that could benefit from it says, that's not something that we really find valuable. So a key part of it is a 3-year plan. So right now we're going through an initial phase where the organization, it's the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, is evaluating our existing policies, our existing commitments, and what we have in place to come back to us and start to say, these are some key gaps and some areas that we recommend that you start to look further into. But then the second phase is really going to be engaging key stakeholders, which will be representatives like yourself from communities that are working in this industry and understand the industry, so that you can provide input around what is it really that would make you move the needle or make your clients move the needle in this area, and what type of policies can we implement to support that. So that's going to be the next phase, and I'll be happy to communicate that with the Development Center so that all of you are kind of up to speed and apprised of when that happens, because we really would love to have you engaged in that area.